That used to be a chainsaw bar. This is Mike from Mike Jones Knife and Tool, and this is part 2 of the building of the Oregon processor bar bushwhacker thingy. Alright folks, so it's been like a week since I emailed Oregon, and I haven't heard back from them, which isn't surprising. I don't expect to be high on their priority list, but that's okay. But I am getting kind of anxious to swing this at something as hard as I can. So instead of holding out and hoping they can get back to me with the information I need, there is an alternative that we can do, and it might work, it might not. But this is a little offcut from the original bar, and I'm going to clean the paint off of it, and then I'm going to heat treat it as I would any normal high carbon steel. I've got a couple of knives I got to do today, so I'm going to just do this with that batch, and then there's a test we can do to see if it worked. If it did, then we're off to the races. I can temper it as I would with a normal high carbon steel, and we can just kind of go from there. And then I can put a handle on it and we can start swinging it. But we'll take you along for that sort of experiment and see how we get from there. Okay, so my little forge is heating up, and while that's happening, I thought I'd explain to you the test that I'm going to do with this. Basically, the idea is once you harden and quench, or heat up and quench the steel, it's at it's about the hardest it could possibly get, which is as hard or harder than a file. And so if you take a file and rub it across the surface of the steel, right now the steel is soft, and so I can feel the teeth actually biting into the steel and removing material. If this hardens, then that won't happen. The file will just kind of skip over the surface, and they call it skating over the surface, and you can tell it's a big difference. So that's a really easy way to figure out if your hardening's working or not. Okay guys, here we are straight out of the fire, same file, and we'll see how it reacts. Oh yeah, right away I can tell it's just skating. I'm not getting any bite. Good news. Capital. So one other interesting thing is I'm just trying to bend this thing just for fun, just to kind of test it out. It's a piece of the bar that happened to be right at the edge where it had that groove in it, and so it was in two pieces. And I tried to bend it just to kind of test the heat treating a little more, just for fun. And you can see right where, this is right where the heat treating ended. You can tell because that's where the scale, maybe you can tell, I can tell, that's where the scale ended. So that happens to be right where, when I grabbed this and bent it, that happens to be the only spot on both sides, right where it bent it. Up here where it was hardened, it doesn't want to bend at all. Alright, so I'm building a really big fire to heat this guy up, and then we'll temper it and get back to cleaning it up after that. I'll catch up with you there. And we're back, hardened and tempered. I'm going to clean up the blade a little bit, and then we can start choosing a wood for the handle. I tempered it at a slightly higher temperature than I would with a knife, because it takes a little more hardness out of the blade and leaves some toughness in there. And since it's going to be like a chopping tool, it's going to take a lot more abuse than a knife typically would. So it's going to work out better for that. Alright, so that's as much as I want to clean it up. That's on purpose. I just wanted to get the edge just close to its final sharp. The rest I'm going to leave the scale on. Scale being a form of rust itself, I find leaving it on some blades, it helps inhibit other types of rust from forming on the steel. So and I think it'll match kind of the look of this pretty good, and this thing's going to get so beat up in such a short period of time anyways. I'm not going to spend a lot of time like hand rubbing this thing to a polish for no real reason anyway. So plus, yeah, I like the look of the black on this one. It's going to match. Here's a piece of the wood. This is what I'm going to use. This is ash. It's actually a piece of hardwood floor. You can see the tongue there, and that's why it's dark. but don't let that fool you. That'll all sand out. It should work out really nice. All of my handle material for knives is obviously not big enough for this guy, so we had to go custom. So I don't know if you can tell, but the power went out. This crazy storm just blew through here, which is really uncharacteristic for around here, so it was unexpected. It came out of nowhere. But I had actually just finished the last step that I needed to actually use electricity for, so I got it glued up. It was really tight. So now we play the waiting game for one more night while the glue cures, and then tomorrow I can shape the handle and we'll go swing it at something. Alright, well, good morning. We're back at it again. It's a good thing I got this thing glued up when I did, because it's been 2 days without power. A long time waiting to get back at this thing, but woke up this morning with electricity, and since we're rural here and I'm on a well, I woke up this morning with running water again, which is nice. So no internet. We have like 1 bar of cell phone reception out here if we're lucky. So it's been back to the Stone Ages for a couple days. And it's back below freezing again this morning, so that just means that putting on my mask is going to be extra refreshing today. Woo! But excited to get back into this thing. We should be able to get the handle done today, and then we'll get to go out and actually put her to use, so it's going to be a good time. Now that I've got it all unclamped here, I'm going to try to emulate my Grand Force handle on my small axe as much as I can, because I just love the feel of that thing. It's so comfortable to hang on to. So mostly what that means is a taper in this direction. I want to have narrow in the front, almost to like a point, as far as the steel will allow, and then wider, broader, and round at the back, and then a nice generous swell down at the butt, which they call a fawn's foot, just so it's easier to really swing this thing one-handed and not worry about it flying out of your hand at your buddy. So I don't want to go into too much detail about shaping. I'll just touch quickly on the process, I guess, that I'm going to take with this particular handle. First thing, as always, is you go around and just find the steel, knock that down, and you get the sort of the side profile. Now I'm not really sure exactly on the back how wide I want that to be yet. I do know how I want the front to look, so I'm going to start there and start working a taper out of that, and that's going to kind of dictate where the back's going to be. It'll give me a really good a good point to kind of start working with my hand around it and seeing where I'm at, and if I want to keep getting smaller or whatever. With the fawn's foot, I'm going to leave till the very end, because I'm not exactly sure the taper that I'm going to work with here, because I don't know how narrow the handle's going to be in here yet. So I'll leave that part to the end and just kind of make it match the handle, make it look right. Right, obviously I've already got the profile here based on how I designed the steel when I drew it on the steel, which is something to take in mind when you're drawing out knives or anything like that. When you're designing it, you're designing a three-dimensional piece that has to fit and be comfortable in your hand, but you're designing it with a two-dimensional drawing on paper. So you just got to kind of keep the final product and the final shape all kind of in mind. It's not just going to be this, it's also going to be that thick as well. So just for fun, now I almost always shape all of my handles with flat discs on an angle grinder, just because it's really fast, and I can do a lot of really fine profiling with it and get it really close, so I don't have to hand sand too much. But just for fun, these are a couple of rasps, Farriers rasps, that I picked up at an estate sale that I'm just planning on pounding into knives or draw knives or something later on in the forge. But just for fun, I figured I'd try them out and try shaping some of this handle with them. And man, am I impressed. These things are old and not even that sharp anymore. And they just chew. Like, try to get not in the way of this thing. remove a lot of material. Like, unfortunately, I can't do the whole handle with this because I've got the steel pins in there, and as soon as you hit one, this thing gets messed up. But even this little one, I've got these little, and just like, not even that much effort. You don't even have to push all that much on them. And this is obviously a huge handle, and that, I mean, if I was just doing a small knife or whatever, you could get away with it. If you didn't have steel pins in here and you ran out of power for a couple days, you can still get the job done like they used to. So I'm starting to get the handle shaped to where I want it, and I gotta be honest, man, I pulled the rasp back out, threw a handle on it, and started going to town, and man, it was, if not faster, at least as fast as I could have done it with the flat disc. Obviously I gotta come back and clean up the areas around the pins there with the disc, but I don't know, man. I was always typical ignorant kid who needs dinosaur technology, right, when I've got this thing. But there's no noise. I don't have to wear earplugs or anything. All the chip off of it is this heavy, it takes a good heavy chunk, so there isn't all this like light particle in the air, so you don't even have to wear a mask with it. And you can do it anywhere. I can take this out into the bush and fashion myself a handle. You don't need power. I get it. And I've been struggling with this. I've been working on this axe handle, just straight solid hickory axe handle, and I've been struggling away with the draw knife. You can see how aggressive a cut it is, and this thing's gonna change the game. I'm a believer. I'm sold. I was calling hoax on these this old technology, but I'm sold. Well, there she is. Handle almost complete. And I gotta tell you, I'll be buying a whole lot less of these guys. Like, they get gummed up, especially on the more exotic hardwoods that are really oily. The discs just get super gummed up in a hurry. They do a great job, especially when they're brand new. They'll remove a lot of material in a hurry. Undeniable. But so will this guy, especially the more aggressive ones. And I did go over the whole handle with the disc just to kind of smooth everything out, because I already had it going just to bump down the areas where around the steel pins. But that could all have been done with, you know, a less aggressive rasp. This one happens to have a very fine tooth on the back of it, and just lightly with that would have smoothed it out fine enough to hit it with some sandpaper and get it to the same place for sure. But anyways, as far as the handle goes, I left it a little bit wider up at the front just because it's just more comfortable that way. You just have a little bit of a swell at the front there. Down at the bottom, I left on purpose, happened to be right where the pins were, or right where the pin was, but a little bit of a palm swell there. It's just a more comfortable grip. And the fawn's foot, the butt at the end, turned out just how I wanted it to. Super happy with it. I'll put the 1/4-inch bit back through there to the lanyard hole and clean that out again, but happy with it. I'm going to hit it really lightly with some sandpaper. I'm not going to go too crazy with the sandpaper because I want it to have a rough feel, you know, some grip to it, and plus I'm going to be wearing gloves most of the time with this anyway, so you know, a high grit isn't going to do anything to this thing for any reason, so no point. I'm stoked. The next shot you see, I think, will be in the bush, and we'll swing it at something. happy with it. Okay, so results. This thing did awesome. I was gonna do one of those slicing through paper tests that everyone seems to like, but this thing wasn't designed for cutting paper. But it chopped through everything it was designed to chop through really well. My buddy and I were out in the forest there clearing trails for a couple of hours. Everything from big, thick alders to, you know, 4 or 5 inch round fir trees. This thing I chopped through. I used it like from everything like a machete to like hacking through, like I say, logs like an axe, and it passed with flying colors. Held an edge really nice. It's still nice and sharp. I think my heat treating did really well, and yeah, everything. Like I say, when I originally set out to build it, I was trying to build a tool that would cut through lots of branches all at once, and it did that. I did that lots of times, and everything from, like I say, clumps of alder or birch to fir trees with tons of branches sticking out of them, and you can just, you know, one-handed hack through 7 or 8 branches that are all sticking out, blow them all off all at once. So yeah, did everything I was hoping it would do and more. So I think this one's a keeper. So thanks for watching, and stick around. We're going to have some more interesting stuff coming up shortly.